Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to many of us. Welcome to CEO Talk, a series conducted by CXO TV, where the leader narrate a story and share the learning and the success of building a great brand. So today we have with us Satish Gidugu, CEO of Medi Assist. Medi Assist is a Bangalore-based health tech and insurtech platform launched in 2013 and is focused on administering health benefits across employer, retail members, public health schemes. The company managed a health insurance premium portfolio of 10,000 crores for the financial year 2021-22. In this episode, we'll discuss the key areas of disruption in InsurTech space and how Medi Assist, by leveraging technology, is the most preferred InsurTech partner for the hospital, patients, and insurers. Welcome, Satish.
Thank you so much, Anuj, for that warm welcome. Thank you. Pleasure being here.
So, Satish, can you just help us, or probably if you can just walk us a little bit through the current trend in the health insurance sector for 2022 and the role of InsurTech partners like Medi Assist in the growth of health insurance sectors?
Thank you, Anuj. Maybe just we start from where the regulatory regime enabling health insurance started way back in early 2000s. And since then, the health insurance has grown leaps and bounds at 20% compounded growth rates for the last many years and continues to grow at the same rate, right? And predominantly, the health insurance today is led by three segments: the employer-based health insurance, which is the group insurance. Then you have the retail insurance products where you and I buy products for ourselves and our families. And then the third segment is the government-sponsored schemes where the state governments and the central governments insure mass population schemes, right? Today as Medi Assist, we participate in all the three areas. We work with the employer-based insurance, we work with retail, and we work on the government-sponsored schemes as a benefits administrator. And we've been around, originally founded in 1999, licensed in 2002. That's our flagship company, Medi Assist, the TPA entity. And as a group, we've been at the forefront of one, simplifying insurance consumption, that is setting up networks, enabling cashless across inpatient and outpatient services, bringing technology to simplify, access and tracking of health benefits, and integrating with various ecosystem partners, right? Be it the hospitals or the insurance companies or the brokers or the members themselves. And that's the area that we've been sort of operating in. And as the insurance industry continues to grow at 20%, and as India sort of moves away from a sub 20% growth, especially if you've seen what COVID has done to this country, like a SARS has done in Hong Kong, where the growth rates have substantially zoomed after the SARS episode. In India as well, COVID has been a sort of moment of awakening for many of us in terms of the need for health insurance, in terms of the uncertainty that all of us have when it comes to falling sick and needing hospitalization. So it clearly gave a significant impetus for the insurance growth in India. And we do see a significant improvement in the way the retail policies are now bought and sold. Now, clearly, what do members need? They need great insurance products, which means depending on my affordability, my income level, my needs, my health status, I need products that are best suited for me. So clearly, one of the things that's moving the industry forward is the innovation on the product front. And we've seen a lot of innovation there on the products. And two is the awareness and the distribution of these products. So, and historically, the awareness was created by retail agents, the feet on the street agents, and who continue to contribute a significant portion of the premium collection. But there are a lot of new digital age brokers, distributors who sort of come in, like Policy Bazaar, for example, right, or a Plum or Nova, who are disrupting the way these products are sort of explained and sort of simplified so that people can actually find an easier way to manage the purchasing process and tailor the benefits to their needs, right? And once you distribute, then the third is how do you, and consumption here, for example, right? Consumption means falling sick, unfortunately, in the health insurance parlance, which means you need a network of hospitals that are reliable. You have a cashless access where you're not out of pocket, and you have rates that are manageable, and sort of you're able to get your insurance to pay most of the expenses and not have too much of out-of-pocket expenses. And last, of course, is the whole claim experience, that if you had to actually pay something out of pocket, how quickly and how efficiently and how humanely the whole industry sort of works towards, giving your money back at the earliest. And of course, all of that stitched through technologies, in my mind, Anuj, are the key themes for the growth of the industry. And today, as Medi Assist and also as an industry player, we participate in all of these segments and enable each of the partners and the members to buy and use health insurance efficiently.
Thanks, Satish. I definitely agree with you somewhere down the line that yes, the ongoing pandemic has definitely accelerated the the awareness among within the corporate world. Where the employee wellness programs, have companies have started focusing around it as compared to the pre-COVID area. And what I can see is that Medi Assist has been focusing on that particular piece as well. So that's a decent download. So I'll just move down to my next question, where I just want to ask you a little bit around around the COVID, because COVID has definitely led to an increase amongst the corporate India, towards the health insurance. And what do you think are the factors which made the role of InsurTech players like Medi Assist more notable, especially during this pandemic times?
Thanks, Anuj. So historically, I think corporates have always led the growth of insurance in India, right? If you look at the past growth trends, until a couple of years ago, the growth rates in corporate sort of led the overall health insurance growth rate, and its retail is something that's sort of picking up now, and we expect retail to sort of lead corporate in the overall growth rates. And we've been at the forefront of introducing and supporting many new innovative benefits, whether it is outpatient, for example, through the Medi platform that we work with, whether it is the health checks or focus on wellness, on preventive care, or supporting outpatient services that are typically not covered in the health insurance towers, right? That do not have hospitalization. And clearly, as the pandemic came in, two or three things that became very obvious, Anuj. One, the whole physical consults where you were able to walk into a hospital, meet a doctor in person, sort of took a significant backseat, right? And teleconsultations, the remote health monitoring sort of became a way of life in a lot of ways. And to the extent that the regulator has actually come out in support of promoting, telehealth as a means, and all insurers now reimburse telehealth expenses. And while historically it was physical consultations that were sort of involved. That's one area that we have clearly seen where technology has played a role, clearly, and multiple platforms that provide these telehealth support services. Second is, I think in some ways, triaging became very important, because in the past, because of affordability and ease of access, all of us walked in and directly went and saw a specialist or walked into a hospital. I see a lot more sort of, cautious approach to how much care do I need. And I think it's a very important theme in managing inflation and managing healthcare costs, that you're actually able to triage the needs and then, get people the right level of care that's actually needed. That's definitely an area that's got, influenced because of COVID. The third is, historically, we looked at benefits as how many lakhs of sum insured do I have, right? Or if I have 5 lakhs, nothing can happen to me. I have 10 lakhs, nothing can happen to me. We've seen COVID cases crossing 1 crore of rupees with the complications. Unfortunately, people were in a very difficult situation, some death cases. And suddenly you realize that 5 or 10 lakhs does not, one, make a difference, in terms of expenses. And second, the products are so complex that just because you have a 5 lakh cover doesn't mean that you can get up to 5 lakhs, right? And there are multiple nuances in the product design. And I think now there's a significant awareness in how do I find the right kind of a product for myself, right? So if you are a 3 lakh rupees sum insured, and if your product said 1% of your sum insured is the room rent limit, which means you cannot occupy a room that costs more than 3,000 rupees a day, right? And that clearly takes a lot of your network hospitals out of the equation because of the limits. Or if you do occupy a room that's higher, you end up paying a significant amount of money out of your pocket. So I think a product simplification in my mind is something that sort of the pandemic is really pushing everybody and saying, how do I simplify this so that when people are buying covers, they're aware how at the moment of truth, the cover actually plays out. And last but not the least, Anuj, is our ability to sort of set expectations and navigate people to the right kind of providers and the cost of care, right? Like in the airlines, you don't just sit in the business class seat and then you decide, oh, it's expensive, right? You sort of have a way of discovering how to use that level of service. Today, unfortunately, in the health insurance space, we're not having enough conversations before somebody walks into a hospital to say, hey, this is what's going to cost you, and this is your, eligibility. This is how much you're going to be out of pocket. If you made these choices on the kind of rooms, the kind of care, you will still get the outcomes, but this is how you can get the best out of your insurance. I think, Anuj, that's an area that I would see some of us playing a significant role going forward, so that we create that awareness and understanding before people walk in and spend money, but not as sort of, they're leaving the hospital and get a bill shock. I think these are some of the areas, Anuj, that I see have changed, and corporates have stepped up and added multiple new programs on benefits that were not supported. Some corporates have supported vaccinations and reimbursements of vaccination expenses. Some corporates have added on a multiple home care products, OPD products, so that nobody's creating that pressure on the hospital ecosystem. And some employers have even picked up excess costs in COVID treatments. And I think we've been sort of at the forefront of supporting many of these innovations over the last couple of years.
Okay, so Satish, we have been seeing that there's a trend of OPD claims growing more than the inpatient ones.
Yeah.
So how Medi Assist is gearing up to address this growing trend?
I think we are partly responsible for that trend, Anuj, given the work that we've done in the industry in making OPD a first-class citizen. And I think we've built the earliest cashless outpatient network when outpatient was still not a very large benefit. Historically, our outpatient claims were about 50% in counts of the inpatient claims. This year, for the first time, Anuj, as we close March 31st, we will have processed more outpatient claims than inpatient claims this year.
Okay.
Nearly 35 million outpatient claims. 3.5 million outpatient claims to something like close to 3 million inpatient claims. And I would never have imagined 3 years ago that the numbers would change. But the challenge with outpatient, Anuj, is it's a very high frequency claim. Unlike a hospitalization, it's a very low ticket claim, and it is more prone to abuse and fraud than an inpatient claim is. So that's where the technology, the integrations with the network players, converting that into cashless so that, there's no cash and reimbursement. And in some ways, take the claim out of that interaction, right? You focus on meeting a doctor, we'll take care of the claim for you, right? You don't worry about the claim here, right? So I think clearly we like to believe that we process more outpatient claims than anybody else, under one roof.
Thanks, Satish. So you mentioned about technology. So let me pick my next question from technology itself. So how Medi Assist, by leveraging AI and ML, is transforming the claim processing and member experience?
Oh, that's a great question, Anuj, and one of the toughest to answer in this industry. So if you look at where the claim finally is a financing problem, right? Because insurance reimburses a loss, right? Clearly. And the loss here is the money that you incurred on account of hospitalization as an individual. And then we've sort of created constructs like a cashless so that you're not out of pocket first, and then you have to reimburse. But we're able to sort of on your behalf give a letter of authorization or a credit to the hospital so that you're not out of pocket. But honestly, I think where we are beginning to use tech, the more the predictive side of it, right? Not there's always been a tech on the workflow side. Today, nearly 85% of the cashless interactions with the network, Anuj, we run it electronically today on our platform. Over 80% of our reimbursement claims, we have allowed members to submit scans online, and we've facilitated payments of claims without even touching a piece of paper. So I think there's a significant amount of technology that's already there at the workflow level and the transaction level. One of our challenges has been that our industry does not have a standard like an HL7 that Western countries would use to electronically capture claim data or the patient data. And hospitals still produce bills and they scan images and then they ship images to us. And we sort of reimagining, what the billing concepts were, what are the structured data. So we made significant investments first in understanding the data, which is historically in handwritten policy documents or handwritten bills, handwritten discharge summaries, handwritten prescriptions. I think a lot of our energy, Anuj, in the last couple of years went into how do I first get usable structured data out of what the industry is throwing at us. I think we made good progress on that front. The second then is what can we do with this data, right? Can we predict somebody's wellness? Can we predict the out-of-pocket expenses? Can we auto-approve certain kind of claims? Once we have sort of codified all the rules, I'm happy to tell you today that about 15% of the discharges and the authorizations that we do it under 10 minutes. And that's sort of possible only because there is a technology and that sort of we've integrated with the hospitals. Now, there is an opportunity there to get the remaining 85%. It's a journey, but I think that's what sort of AI is allowing us to do. The second big thing, Anuj, that AI has allowed us to do is simplify the whole fraud and abuse, prevention in the industry, right? Because historically, since we didn't have great insights into which claim could be fraudulent, and it was a gut feel, we sort of reviewed the documents, somebody came up with an answer on potentially what is a fraud. Now we're beginning to use AI and ML to sort of sample claims as they go through the system and saying, hey, it's potential fraud, potential abuse, and what do you do? They've allowed us to do two things. One, find fraud more effectively, and two, not have false positives where we are not inconveniencing people just by asking questions just because we thought maybe it's a fraudulent claim. So we've been sort of able to reduce the number of claims that where we are asking questions, but also improve the conversion rates on finding fraud and making sure that insurers are not paying claims where they shouldn't. So I think these are some of the areas where we've been able to very successfully deploy it.
Thanks, Satish. I think 10 minutes of turnaround time for claim processing is pretty impressive. And we hope this might get further reduced in years to come. Okay, so with this, I'll just going to be asking a little bit around the tele health services, the role you guys have, in terms of delivering the tele health services to the patient, what kind of a role a TPA like you guys have, for the patient in delivering telehealth services.
Thanks, Anuj. So I think one of the things that we did, Anuj, was to, fairly early on realize we're not going to be good at everything, right? We are not going to be doctors. We are not going to be pharmacists, right? We are not going to be the lab technicians. But what our members needed was real-time, instant, cashless access to any kind of healthcare service. Right? So our focus has always been on how do I bring this whole large network? See, when it was inpatient, it was easier because you focused on 10,000, 15,000 hospitals. You sort of covered most of the pin codes, and you made inpatient available. But when it comes to outpatient, there are millions of these endpoints, right? The pharmacies, the doctors, and everyone else. So our approach has been that how do I simplify this whole network definition so that everybody in India is part of the network, right? Mm-hmm. Clearly, as Medi, the wellness arm, where we have a significant inbuilt capacity on handling teleconsultations and calls through AI and through doctors offering across 20 plus specialties and handling nearly 20,000 teleconsults a day. But having said that, but across the other services, for example, health checks or lab tests, we are integrated with every lab provider out there in the country, where so you can come to the platform and then say, hey, I want HbA1c test done from this diagnostic center on this day, and we have the ability to sort of say, hey, no problem, connect that back to the lab and convert that into cashless, so that you only give blood but not money, right? So when the person actually shows up. And clearly, so now then we extended this definition from labs to pharmacy. Today in pharmacy, through our partner integrations, we cover nearly 97% of PIN codes in India. Okay. And where our members can actually come to the portal, upload a prescription and say, hey, can you deliver this diabetes medicine for my dad? And then we actually make sure that one of the partners delivers it. Again, you don't pay anything out of your pocket. We convert that back into cashless and get the insurance company to pay the pharmacy.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting, Satish. And now, can you just talk a little bit more in terms of the growth prospect for InsurTech sector in India, probably next 2 years down the line?
I think we're just beginning to peel the onion right now.
Okay.
I think historically, we looked at health insurance as a lump sum number. Chalo, premiums will grow 20% year on year. Half will come from group, half will come from retail. And I think it was as lump sum a view that we had in the past. But, honestly, like if you go back to the initial parts of our conversation, innovations have to happen in product design. So there are InsurTech companies focusing on the designs and simplification. Then there are InsurTech platforms that are focusing on distribution, digital distribution, easy access, easy purchasing experience. Then there are people like us who are focusing on stitching the whole end-to-end experience of falling sick to money in the bank, so to say, right? The process, how do you simplify it? Then there are other companies that are sort of bringing data in and creating insights, right, for the whole industry. And then there are companies that are focusing on technology only as a backbone and infrastructure so that everybody else can sort of do. And of course, then some of us are also building technologies for the hospitals so that the hospitals actually can do a better and simplified job of managing the whole insurance nuances. And of course, today they take a lot of pressure in terms of managing the insurance expectations. How do we sort of simplify the life of a hospital so that the whole insurance customer gets better outcomes? In my mind, Anuj, each of these is going to be a vertical of its own over a period of time. And you see enough startups sort of taking their niche spaces in each of these segments. I believe that, see, the opportunity is like this, right? And it's probably a year-old number, but $90 billion was the expected cost of hospitalization in India, healthcare. Insurance was just $7 billion.
Yep.
Okay, so clearly the gap is significant. Even for the $7 billion that the insurance paid, there's potentially $3 billion that was paid out of pocket by the members who are actually insured, right? And clearly there is a gap in the way the products are covering expenses. So I think the journey really is going from 7 to 90. It is not the 20%, growth year on year. That's going to keep this industry running.
Thanks a lot, Satish. With this, we come to the end of this episode. Thanks for such an insightful session. And we really had the pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Anuj. I appreciate you having me on this episode. Real pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Satish.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.